This is Chidanand from Kratz Infotech NG and welcome to this short tutorial on Jenkins Monitoring. What I plan to demonstrate in this tutorial is the usage of a monitoring tool called Prometheus and a dashboard visualization tool called Grafana, using which I will set up some monitoring for my Jenkins instance. Though Jenkins is not really run in a production kind of environment, Jenkins is a very integral part of many development teams, and it's nothing but appropriate that you need to monitor your Jenkins instance for its usage of memory, CPU cycles, anytime it is going down. All these statistics of your Jenkins may prove to be very useful for many organizations. Prometheus is an open source and alerting and monitoring toolkit. What it does is it is capable of gathering all kinds of statistics regarding the usage of CPU, memory, and any other statistics that can be gathered from any particular machine or a software which is instrumented or which can be instrumented using Prometheus. And Grafana is nothing but a completely visualization tool. It's got beautiful, built-in kind of a dashboards, plug and play kind of a dashboards, and Grafana and Prometheus work very well. Okay, coming to what I plan to set up in my demonstration today. I will be having a very simple Jenkins instance. I'll probably run this on my local Windows box, and then I will install a Prometheus plugin. So as soon as I install a Prometheus plugin, what actually happens is Jenkins will start giving out all kinds of statistics regarding the box on which it is running, and regarding the tools that it is running, or regarding the jobs that is running, regarding the agents that it is controlling. All statistics regarding Jenkins will be available in a particular URL. The default URL is your whatever is your Jenkins URL followed by Prometheus. Now after this is up and running, what I plan to do is I will set up a very simple box. What I'll do is probably I'll run this on Docker, because setting up Prometheus and Grafana as a Docker container is much simpler than anything else. So I will spin up another box. This is just for my demonstration, but the steps that I'll be demonstrating would be the same for any other setup. But ideally I can have different servers. However, I will set up one particular server on which this will be Linux box. On this Linux box, I will bring up a Prometheus container and a Grafana container. Later, I will show you how this Prometheus controller or Prometheus container can be used to scrape data from my Jenkins instance. So after that, I'll just show you how to bring up a very simple Grafana dashboard, and then use the data source that is available with my Prometheus in order to put up a very nice dashboard for all data that is collected, for all statistics that is collected regarding my Jenkins instance. This is my Windows box on which I have Jenkins installed. So let me log into my Jenkins instance. Okay, the version of Jenkins that I had is 2.204.1. No specific reason other than I was using it for one of my customers. So what I want to do now is, in this Jenkins, let me go ahead and install a plugin. So go to manage plugins and click on available and search for Prometheus. Alright, so Prometheus, so let me click on this. If I want some information regarding this, let me open that in the new tab, and let me do an install without restart, and look at this plugin information. This is a pretty popular plugin, and it requires Jenkins this version. I have a version which is above this, so that's pretty good. So many installations have happened on this plugin, so it looks like a good plugin to kind of use. Alright, so Prometheus plugin doesn't support dynamic loading to be restarted. Okay, so no problem. Let me go ahead and restart my Jenkins once. So go to services, go to Jenkins, and let me manually restart this. There was also an option right there to restart it, but I prefer doing it this way. Okay, now let me give it a minute for my Jenkins to come up. My Jenkins has restarted, so let me log back in. Alright, so all that I did was went ahead and installed my Prometheus plugin. So if you go to manage Jenkins and go to configure system, there would be an additional stuff that I would see now because of the plugin that I've installed, and that allows me to configure what all information regarding Jenkins can be given out as a part of Prometheus data. Alright, so let me see, where is it? Configure system. Alright, there you go. Right here you would find a tab regarding Prometheus, and it tells you what is the path. This is the default path where it is available, and if at all I want, I can enable authentication, but that's not what I want. And then there's all this information that you can pick and choose the duration of the metrics and all this stuff. For now, let me not fiddle around with any of these. All that I know is that at this URL, I have some information regarding my Jenkins that is being given out every 120 seconds. So let me just go ahead and save it. And let me have a quick look at what is this data, what kind of data is going out. So for this is the URL of my Jenkins. And if I say Prometheus, you would find all kinds of information that is available regarding the Jenkins jobs, regarding the Jenkins usage, regarding Jenkins CPU, whatever information that Jenkins is instrumented is all available at this URL. Now that's the first part of my task, which is complete. For bringing up my Grafana and Prometheus setup, I would want a Linux box because I would really bring them up on a Docker container, and it's very easy to do that on a Linux box rather than on a Windows box. So I'm using one of my VMs. This is an Ubuntu box which is available, which I've spun up on the Google Cloud. This is the IP address of that machine, so I've connected to this. And let me check what is the version I have. This is an Ubuntu 18.04 box. So right here I have Docker running. Alright, I have a Docker Community Edition 19.03 which is up and running. So what I want to do is, on these box I have Docker running. I would spin up two containers that would have, one of them will have Grafana on it and one of them will have Prometheus on it. Now the way to run it, I will kind of document this in the details section of my video, but you can kind of Google search it out anywhere. So how to run this as containers is pretty simple. So docker run -d, run like a daemon, a name for my a particular container. I would name it as Prometheus. I would want that this is the default port, and what image that I want to run is Prometheus prom/Prometheus. I hope there is no image name with that. I mean, sorry, there's no container with that. Okay, the Prometheus container came up, or rather it'll come up in a while. Let me also run Grafana. These could, for all that matter, these two things could be somewhere else on different boxes, as long as they can communicate to each other using a public IP or some IP and a port. That's all that I would need. So I have two versions, or rather two containers that is running. The default ones, I have Prometheus and Grafana. Alright, now what I want to do is, in some way, ensure that my Prometheus, which is running on this box, can kind of scrape data that is available on my Jenkins, local Jenkins instance that I'm running. So if you look at my setup, I have my Prometheus and Grafana, which are running as Docker containers, and this is on a publicly available IP address or on the Google Cloud. Now I would need to have some mechanism by which my Prometheus would have an access or can gather data that is given out by my local Jenkins instance. But since my Jenkins is running locally as a local host within my local network, it won't be by default available to um, the Prometheus instance or Prometheus container that is running on the Google Cloud. So what I plan to do is, let me use a small utility. This is a pretty popular utility that I use all the time, called ngrok. And what it does is it takes out the local port of mine and makes it a kind of a publicly available port. This way I will expose my Jenkins instance using a public IP address. So let me do that. I already have a small installer. You can look at my previous videos in case you want information regarding this. So ngrok http 8080. I would want to expose my Jenkins, which is running locally on my box, as a public IP. All right, now in no time, this is the publicly available IP address. So if I hit this from anywhere, I should be able to hit my Jenkins box. Right, and if at all I look at /Prometheus, all right, so the address, I mean, this public address will also gather or hit the Jenkins instance and is able to reach out to all the logs or all the statistics that is given out under the /Prometheus URL. Now this is all that I need so that I can go ahead and configure my Prometheus um, container or Prometheus image that is running as a container. In order to configure my Prometheus to scrape some data out of my Jenkins box, I need to put in a small YAML configuration which looks something like this. So I'm going to put in a new job name called Jenkins, and this is the path /Prometheus, and the target that I need to specify is the URL of my Jenkins instance. So I've just pasted the URL, and this is the same URL that I see here as a part of my ngrok. In case this is a static IP address or a URL for you, you can just paste in that. So let me copy this small part of it, and I would need to get into my Prometheus instance. Actually, I need to configure my Prometheus image that is running. So since I'm running this as a container, let me show you how to achieve that. So let me go back to my Docker and say Docker PS. Okay, now you have Prometheus and Grafana both are running. So let me get into my Prometheus container. So Docker exec -it. This is my Prometheus, and bin sh should get me in. Okay, I've gone into my Docker container. So let me go ahead and make that change. So let me go to etc Prometheus. This is the default folder where you'll find this YAML file. Now by default, when I launched a container, it just doesn't scrape any data. It's not configured to scrape any data. Now that I need my Prometheus to scrape data from my Jenkins instance, I'll have to go and make some modifications into this YAML file. All right, so this is the standard YAML file that you would see. So let me go ahead and oops. All right, let me go ahead and paste whatever I have copied. Now let me copy it again. So this is what I would need to add as a configuration. Now this will enable that, this will enable my Prometheus, which is running inside this Docker container, in order to scrape data from my Jenkins instance. So it's a YAML configuration. So let me fix this. All right, this looks good. Job, the same line as this, job name, Jenkins metric path, and the address. So this looks good. If there's any other space or something, let me go ahead and delete this. So I'm just configuring my Prometheus so that it starts scraping data from one of the services, this URL. All right, now I made this change inside the YAML file. So let me restart my Prometheus so that it will take effect. Docker restart. All right, since I made the change inside my container, I need to restart it so that the new YAML file would take effect. Now, hopefully that has gone ahead well. And if you see, Prometheus URL is available at the port 9090. So let me open up. This is the URL of my box that is running, and colon 9090. Okay, now this is the URL, the default URL that you will see for Prometheus, and there you go. Looks like a lot of these Jenkins configurations have come into picture. It means that it's actually, picking up some information from my Jenkins server. If you see here, I have managed to scrape data out of my running Jenkins instance. So this plain data just like that is of not much help for me. So what I can do is I can kind of plug this in as an input source to my Grafana instance. So I also have this Grafana, the default one that is running. This one is running on port 3000. So let me open up another browser. All right. Oops. This is my IP address of my box followed by port 3000. So what this does is this gives me the default Grafana login, and the default Grafana credentials are admin. So let me log in. Okay, it's asking me for a change of password. So let me give a simple password. Not sure what was that error, but it went home and it took me in. So now this is a default dashboard where I can plug in any kind of a data source to it. So let me go ahead and do that. So settings, configuration, data sources. Right, let me add a data source to it. So there are a lot of data sources that it can connect to. For us, our data source is Prometheus. All right, so this is my Prometheus URL. Oops, oops, not this one. Where is my, this one? I don't need all that. This is all that is required for me to be copied. So that's my Prometheus URL. So I'm going to paste the URL right here, and I don't have to change anything else. So let me save and test. All right, so there you go. It says that everything is good. It is able to gather data out of the data source. Now what I want to do is let me just come up with a, or rather let me just import a nice dashboard. Let me import this. All right, so let me look at some available dashboards. I can go ahead and create a lot of dashboards based upon whatever information that I need, but why to take that effort? There's already somebody who would have created a lot of these dashboards which are pretty much available for you, and they give you all kinds of information that you would possibly want from various softwares or machines that you are scraping data out of. So since I want to look at Jenkins, so let me go ahead and search for Jenkins. All right, so you'll see that these are all already available dashboards that is there. And this looks like, all that you got to look at is what kind of data sources do these dashboards relate to? Because this is all InfluxDB, that's another kind of a data source. Since we do not have that, this would not work for us. So ideally, I would look at something that is very, very popular. So this list, like, a lot of reviews, and it looks like really good. 5,000, over 5,000 downloads. So let me take a look at this. All right, it gives me some nice dashboard like this. Okay, this is good for me. So let me just go ahead and copy this ID. 9424 is the 9524 is the ID. So let me go ahead here and I will have to just specify probably the ID. Let me just check that. Yep, this is the dashboard published by Mr. So and so. That sounds good. So let me go ahead and import this. All right, there you go. In no time, I mean, I don't have too much of data because I don't have anything that is running, and we just set up our Prometheus monitoring. But in no time, I was able to scrape data and also visualize that data, how much of a free space is available, what is the Jenkins health, any plugins that failed. um, I do have one of the nodes which is offline, which is why this is showing this offline nodes as one. um, if there's something that is happening regarding the CPU usage and all that, over a span of time you will find all kinds of statistics specific to your Jenkins. You can go ahead and enhance this, create some alerts and stuff like that. This, in a nutshell, gives you the complete health status of your Jenkins. Setting up a monitoring system for Jenkins is as simple as that. And I hope you found this video tutorial informative. And as usual, I'll leave all the instructions that I followed for this setup out there in the details section of the video. If you have any questions or if you get stuck somewhere, kindly leave a message and I'll try to address it as soon as I can. Thanks a lot for watching, and you guys have a great day.